that we are going to take today is sea floor spreading has slowed down. So this is very important because it forms part of geography as well as environment. ठीक है? So what is sea floor? We will be understanding what is sea floor spreading and why has it slowed down, and what is the study that what are the points that the recent study makes regarding sea floor spreading. ठीक है? So what is the news? कि sea floor spreading that creates crust. Okay, this is a very important point to know. That creates crust. अब क्या है? Crust is the topmost layer of earth. Okay, this layer is called lithosphere. ठीक है? तो and that is core, mantle, and this layer is called crust. This is core, ठीक है? molten form, ठीक है? This is mantle, very hot, semi-solid, and this is crust, outermost layer of earth is called crust. तो यहाँ पे एक important point है कि crust is created by what? Which geologic activity creates crust? It is seafloor spreading. Okay, we will be understanding this very interesting phenomena in a while. So the report says that growing mountains may be driving this. Okay, what does the study indicate? Indicates that the seafloor spreading has slowed down from 200 milliliters per year to 140 millimeters per year. Okay, around 140 mm per year. That means earlier it was believed that the crust is moving at the speed of 150 mm per year, 200 mm per year, but now this assumption was valid 200 million or 150 million year ago. So we all know that how this whole continents, all these continents formed. ठीक है? तो basic जो plate tectonic theory है that says that it was all a singular landmass called Pangea, and then due to the what theory, there's one theory, basically that theory states that due to sorry, okay, ठीक है? So this is molten form, ठीक है? And it is rotating at very high speed, ठीक है? The core of the earth, due to which it creates heat which travels upwards, outwards basically radially. Okay. Now this heat makes, what this heat does, there is one cycle, ठीक है? Now this heat in this region flows like this, very similar to the atmospheric circulation, the circulation of air within the atmosphere. ठीक है? One point they rise and other points they sink. Similarly, this heat also rises to the crust, like to the lithosphere, and from there they spread, cool down, and then again they gain energy. They rise. Once they gain energy from the heat, they rise above. Sometimes they may explode, creating lava. This lava flows down, ठीक है? Flows down, cools down, and again when it cools, it settles, ठीक है? और यहाँ पे plates हैं, बहुत सारी tectonic plates हैं, ठीक है? These all plates are constantly moving. Why are they moving? The theory is, although this theory has not been substantially proved, it still remains to prove this theory. But the theory is that due to this immense propagation of heat radially outwards from the core of the earth, what happens is, this portion actually starts behaving like fluid, not as a solid. ठीक है? And when this gains energy, it rises upwards, and then molten lava के form में ये बाहर आता है, and then again it cools down, and again it slides into the subduction zone. We'll be looking at what is subduction zone in a while. ठीक है? और वहां से again it cools down to settles down, again settles down, it reaches. This whole process takes millions of years. ठीक है, this whole process takes millions of years. ठीक है, and again new crust is created, and old crust is destroyed. New crust is created, old crust is destroyed. This is the process of phenomena of creation of crust, या creation of basically lithosphere. ठीक है, तो back analysis showed that sea floor spreading. Okay, what I was going to explain, Pangea basically. The basic theory, it's not too circular. That in the very beginning it was all, ठीक है, this is earth, these are oceans, this is Pangea. Okay, this was Pangea, Pangea. ठीक है, but वो lava जो the theory that we just studied कि lava comes upward, due to which this crust starts moving, due to which this crust broke down into many pieces. ठीक है, all those pieces are now continents. ठीक है, तो अब continents है, तो still that movement is going on. ठीक है, the movement that led to the breakdown of Pangea and formation of various continents, so that movement is still going on. Okay, so but what analysis has showed is कि now the movement has slowed down. The movement that created continents like the Indian plate also broke from Pangea, it came upwards, it hit the Eurasian plate, due to which what happened, the rise of Himalayas across the northern border. ठीक है, so Himalayas is also a tectonic formation. Okay, due to the collision of Indian plate and this Chinese plate and Eurasian plate, तो यहाँ पे collision की वजह से हिमालयस का क्रिएशन हुआ. ऐसे ही बहुत सारे collisions की वजह से नए जियोलॉजिकल फीचर्स क्रिएट हुए पूरे वर्ल्ड में. फॉर एग्जांपल एंडीज माउंटेन्स, नाज़का प्लेट एंड सदर्न अमेरिकन प्लेट के कोलिजन के बीच की वजह से एंडीज माउंटेन्स पूरी रेंज क्रिएट हुई. बहुत सारी यू विल ऑब्जर्व दैट देयर इज अ पैसिफिक रिंग. द पैसिफिक रिंग इसलिए कहा जाता है क्योंकि देयर आर इन अ सर्टेन रीजन अराउंड द पैसिफिक ओशियन, ठीक है, अराउंड द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ दिस कॉन्टिनेंट्स देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ वोल्केनोस. ठीक है, there are a lot of volcanoes. This volcanic action is due to tectonic movement. Okay, we'll try to understand that also. This is very interesting. Now pace was not uniform everywhere. Of course it is understood that pace was not uniform everywhere. Okay, the speed of movements was pronounced at the ridges along eastern Pacific. Now as I said, the speed of movements were pronounced at the ridges along the eastern Pacific. Now let's have a look on eastern Pacific. This is, ठीक है, I hope this is visible. This is Philippine plate, this is Pacific plate. ठीक है, this whole is Pacific Ocean, this Australia, Indo-Australian plate, this whole is Indo-Australian plate. Okay, now you can see these arrows and these arrows are pushing into each other. Okay, these are called convergent boundaries. When two different plates converge into each other, they are called convergent boundaries. Similarly, you can see that this Philippine plate, okay, and Pacific plate, this plate, the Eurasian plate is pushing this side and Philippine plate is pushing this side. Pacific plate is pushing this side. That means the Philippine plate has been crushed within what? Within the Pacific plate and Eurasian plate. Now the point was कि this movement was faster in which side? In the eastern Pacific. ठीक है? This movement was faster in the, sorry, this is western Pacific, this is eastern Pacific. ठीक है, तो दिस मूवमेंट ऑफ फास्टर अलोंग द नाज़का प्लेट, साउथ अमेरिकन प्लेट. ठीक है, तो नाज़का प्लेट इज पुशिंग अगेंस्ट साउथ अमेरिकन प्लेट, साउथ अमेरिकन प्लेट इज पुशिंग द नाज़का प्लेट. तो यहाँ पे भी कन्वर्जेंट बाउंड्रीज है. डाइवर्जेंट बाउंड्रीज वहां पे होंगी जहाँ पे प्लेट्स आर मूविंग अवे फ्रॉम ईच अदर. ठीक है, तो विल ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड कि how these geological actions take place and what are the results of these geological actions. Okay, certain ridges in the region were roughly 100 millimeters per year slower compared to 19 million years ago. That means the speed of movement of all these continental plates was not the same. ठीक है, कहीं ज़्यादा कहीं कम. The study is of the view that the factor driving the slowdown could be located in subduction zones rather than the ridges. अब subduction zones क्या होते हैं और divergent plates क्या होती हैं, ये हम अभी, that is what we are going to have a look at. Okay, what is the seafloor spreading? So as I said, this is inner core. This whole theory, mantle hypothesis, this is called mantle hypothesis. It states that, as you can now see this, when this this energy, the part of mantle, okay, that gains energy, it rises upwards, and at some point in the lithosphere, basically, where the points are weak, it sprouts up and forms volcanoes. Okay. Now, these volcanoes create new crust. Okay? These volcanoes create new crust as the inner mantle gets pushed upwards, outwards, okay? And new crust gets created on the top of this layer. Okay. Again, when this layer cools down, it moves away from this ridge, it moves away from the ridge, and it subducts somewhere. Okay? Like this is the point of creation of the ridge, and this is the point of subduction. Okay? And again this cools, again goes back, gains heat, again rises upwards. This is what I told in the very previous slide. That this is called seafloor spreading. Seafloor spreading means the seafloor spreading means the very specific locations where volcanoes erupt within the oceans, and then the seafloor extends outwards, है ना, और new crust is created. ठीक है, this is called seafloor spreading. ठीक है, तो hot rocks below the lithosphere are constantly in motion. This makes the upper layer of the lithosphere also mobile. ठीक है, as we can see, this is the whole motion, this process of movement. Okay, the places where these hot rocks come out of lithosphere form divergent boundaries. Now, this is a place where we can have a divergent boundaries. This is a place where we can have a convergent boundaries. Convergent boundaries पे subduction zones create होते हैं. Divergent boundaries पे new crust का formation होता है. New crust is formed. ठीक है? Divergent boundaries पे new crust is formed. Convergent boundaries पे crust is basically destroyed, and either one of the plates, basically there can be two continental plates also, oceanic plate and continental plates also. There can be two any kind of plates. ठीक है? One of the plates will be subducted and the other will rise on to that. It's a very interesting phenomena. It has been proven also. Like we will see. See, this picture properly explains the whole process. ठीक है? So we'll be looking at all these in a very like easier aspects. How this is asthenosphere. Okay, again this lava sprouts out of this. Now you can see that the crust has broken down. The crust has split into two parts. Okay, if the crust is split into two parts, तो यहाँ से lava it will come out. It will come out and spread like this. ठीक है, तो you can see कि पहले जहां पे इतनी ही जमीन थी, now it has spread. This is called spreading. ठीक है, and this boundary is called what? Divergent boundary. मतलब the plates are diverging. ठीक है, तो when it starts diverging, it starts moving away. ठीक है, when it moves away, so for example, if this is continental crust or continental plate, this is oceanic plate. ठीक है, तो there's one important understanding of the fact that continental crusts are lighter Yeah, rarer we can say. Rarer means lighter basically, light. Continental crusts are rarer than what? This crust. This is what? Oceanic. This is continental plate, this is oceanic plate, right? तो यहाँ पे divergent, यहाँ पे convergent boundary है. क्यों? क्योंकि this after the spreading, this starts moving away from the ridge, जिसकी वजह से यहाँ पे तो sea floor spread हो रहा है, लेकिन when this reaches this point, जहाँ पे ये continental crust है, ठीक है? This is continental crust. It is also pushing this way, and this is also pushing this way. तो अब either one has to go down and one has to go up. Very simple. बट यहाँ पे एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट साइंटिफिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि कॉन्टिनेंटल क्रस्ट्स आर रेयरर या लाइटर एज कंपेयर टू द व्हाट, एज कंपेयर टू दिस ओशियनिक क्रस्ट्स या ओशियनिक प्लेट्स. ओशियनिक प्लेट्स आर हेवियर. तो इफ टू थिंग्स, वन इज हैवी, वन इज लाइट, दे आर कोलाइडिंग, तो what is the most probable opportunity? The most probable chance is that lighter will be below and the lighter will be above the heavier part, because heavier will be subducted. ठीक है? So this point is called subduction zone. Now you can see this is whole lithosphere. ठीक है? Lithosphere, and this lithosphere is getting subducted. इसको कहते हैं destruction of lithosphere या destruction of crust. That means every creation has a seed of destruction. Again, this becomes a bit philosophical, but the matter of fact is कि whenever this lava comes out, new crust is created in this region. ठीक है? You can see new mountainous regions are created, new crust is created, this lava spreads along the floor, and when it starts moving down, cools down, this whole process is very lengthy. ठीक है? It can take thousands to millions of years. ठीक है? And then this movement basically we are talking, why are we are looking at this whole diagram is because scientists have evaluated that this movement was 200 mm per year, okay, when around 150 million years ago. 150 million years ago. ठीक है? The speed of this movement was 150 million years ago. So 200 mm per year, 150 million years ago. But now scientists are saying that this has reduced to 140 mm per year. ठीक है? Okay. Now this is one divergent boundary. ठीक है? This is called divergent boundary. This is called transform plate या transform fault. When two layers, ठीक है? For example, if two layers are rubbing each other in such a way that they are not opposing each other. If two plates are rubbing each other in such a way that they are not either approaching or going away. ठीक है? They are not either approaching, this one goes this side, this one goes this side. Just the matter of fact that they are in touch with each other. So they might be creating friction, but they are not either approaching each other or not diverging from each other. That is called a transform fault. Okay. Now you can see at this point of time, at this place, here again, this lithosphere gets this point is called subduction zone. Subduction means one of the layer gets subducted. Here we saw that this oceanic plate is heavier, this continental plate is lighter, right? So what will happen? This plate will go down and this plate will rise up, right? But these are subduction zones. Subduction zones are created. That means trenches are created like this. Okay? So this area, this place is called subduction zone. This subduction zone creates trenches. Okay? This subduction zone creates trenches. Okay? These are the trenches. This region is called a trench. Trench मतलब खाई. ठीक है? So you can see that all these trenches, the deepest of the trenches are formed near subduction zones, and the deepest of the trenches is that we know to up till now is Mariana Trench. Mariana Trench, it is very interesting to observe that Mariana Trench would be around some subduction zone. Okay? And we will look at the map that tells us, see, Mariana Plate is around this point. Mariana Plate is around this point. Along this border where the Pacific Plate is pushing and the Philippine Plate is pushing. Okay. So यहाँ पे, although both are oceanic plates, again, although both are oceanic plates, but one must, if they are pushing against each other, one of them must be lighter as compared to the other. One must subduct, and यहाँ पे subduction होता है जिसकी वजह से the deepest trench called Mariana Trench is created. Mariana Trench is in Pacific, along the border of Pacific and Philippine Plate. Okay. Okay. I hope this is very interesting. Okay. So I hope you understood how trenches are formed. Now the second part of this is when these when this part of the lithosphere starts going down, it contains a lot of energy due to friction. Okay? It is not that at only this point they are rubbing each other. This layer extends below and this layer is going down, so they are creating huge amount of energy. Okay? Due to which they may give rise to magma. They may give rise to volcanoes along these boundaries. See? Okay? So the layer which is lying on the top of the subducting layer, they have volcanic eruptions. Okay? So they have volcanic eruptions. Okay? And this can be also observed along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Okay? The Pacific Ring of Fire is called a ring of fire because there are too many what? Again, if we look at this Pacific Plate, again we look at this Pacific Plate, so this is called Pacific Ring of Fire. Okay? This whole area is called Pacific. The shaded portion in black, it is called Pacific Ring of Fire because there are a lot of volcanoes around this area. ठीक है? जैसे अभी इंडोनेशिया में volcano eruption हुआ था, and all these places are like populated with volcanoes. Why? Because Pacific Plate is very big. Okay, and it is pushing outwards all the plates, and if it is pushing outwards, so it is a heavier plate. Okay, basically it is the lighter plate as compared to the Eurasian plate. ठीक है, और as compared to all these plates, and यहाँ पे क्या होता है, इसकी वजह से subduction की वजह से volcanic eruptions होते हैं. ठीक है, and we understood कि volcanic eruptions क्यों हो रहे हैं. We understood कि when this is going down, okay, when this is going down, it is rubbing against this plate and it is producing huge amount of energy. ठीक है, तो if these volcanic eruptions take place in silos means in singularities, this is a complete fault. This is the whole plate has broken down. ठीक है, but here what happens is the whole plate does not break, but somewhere these volcanic eruptions take place. ठीक है, यहाँ तो पूरी plate breakdown हो गई and volcano is just magma is just coming out. ठीक है, लेकिन यहाँ पे भी similar process, but due to rubbing of friction of these two plates, what happens is this rising magma, and when this magma rises, ठीक है, in silos, and over the millions of years, this magma cools down and forms these smaller islands. ठीक है. Now another very important phenomena, we again need to go back to that map. These are the Philippine Islands. ठीक है, ये सारे Philippine Islands हैं. ये South China Sea, we know. This is Japan. All these islands, they are volcanic islands. They have been formed due to volcanic action caused by the subduction of the this Pacific Plate. Okay, Pacific Plate is subducting and Eurasian Plate is like heavier. Okay, so it is on the top of it, but यहाँ पे volcanic eruptions हुए for millions of years. Again, if you look at this, ठीक है, Philippine Plate, So all these islands that you can see in triangles, okay, all these are very high hotspots of volcanic eruptions. Okay, and this is called the what? Pacific Ring of Fire. I hope you understood why Pacific Ring of Fire is called a Pacific Ring of Fire, due to excessive volcanic action. The second point being कि this Pacific plate is pushing against Philippine plate, Eurasian plate, okay, and due to which subduction is being caused and volcanic action is very much prevalent. Okay, again going back to, so I hope you understood how these Philippine Island, Japan, and all these island nations, a lot of islands have been created in the Pacific, in the Western Pacific, okay, and these are basically what? Island, they basically form arc of island, and they have been formed due to the subduction of one of the layer, that is Pacific layer, the Pacific plate. ठीक है, तो आई होप यू अंडरस्टूड कि सबडक्शन जोन में पहले तो ट्रेंचेस बनती हैं. ट्रेंचेस का सबसे जो डीपेस्ट ट्रेंच है दैट इज कॉल्ड Mariana Trench, and that is also in the Pacific, between the Philippine plate and the Pacific plate. And second action of this is, the third action is seafloor spreading. This is the seafloor due to the fault in the plate, the whole fault, a lot of magma sprouts out of it, due to which a new layer of crust is formed and seafloor also spreads. Okay? And the third point is the formation of island arcs. A lot of geological features have been covered in this one lecture. You are going to have a very difficult time if you are going to study all this from some if you are going to study from some points which are not properly explained. So I hope you understood कि कैसे divergent fault, convergent, this is convergent boundary, this is divergent boundary, this is also convergent boundary, because two plates are colliding with each other. अब यहाँ पे एक major confusion जो students को होता है कि सर convergent boundaries are formed between only मतलब एक continental crust, मतलब continental plate and एक oceanic plate. That is not true. A convergent plate can be between a continental plate and a continental plate, and a continental plate and an oceanic plate. Okay? It is very important to remember, and this is a very important diagram. I took it from Encyclopedia Britannica. You can look up into your own devices. You'll love this very much. Okay. So again, this one I convergent boundaries, for example, again the very same thing, nothing new. Oceanic crust is subducting, continental crust is on the top of it. हाँ, जहाँ पे continental crust या continental plate और एक oceanic plate का collision हो रहा है, if they are forming a convergent boundary, तो definitely a trench will be formed. Why? First important point कि all these convergent boundaries, ठीक है, all these convergent boundaries, trench is going to be necessarily formed, and in the regions or like near that trench, volcanic action will also be necessarily present. ठीक है, okay. Second important point is कि whenever a convergent boundary is formed between an oceanic plate and what, this continental plate, so continental plate, by the virtue of being lighter, it will float on the top of the oceanic plate. Okay, now if someone says कि why is a oceanic plate denser, तो उसका reason ये है कि continental crust is broadly granitic in nature. ठीक है, इसका composition granitic है, and with a density of about 2.7 grams is somewhat lighter than oceanic crust. मतलब continental crust का जो composition है that is granitic, but oceanic crust का जो composition है that is basaltic. ठीक है, basalt is also a rock. ठीक है, तो this one is granitic, this is basaltic, और granite और basalt की densities में फर्क है. ठीक है, they have a different density, due to which continental crust is a bit lighter than what oceanic crust. Okay, there's उनकी densities में कितना difference है? Basalt, the oceanic crust is composed of basalt. ठीक है, basalt का जो density है that is 2.9 to 3 grams per cubic centimeter, whereas for continental crust it is 2.7 grams per cubic centimeter. ठीक है, and density decides the weight. Okay, क्योंकि volume is equal to mass upon density. ठीक है, तो this is a very interesting phenomena, ठीक है, this is a very interesting phenomena. So we saw a lot about the Pacific. Now this is mid-Atlantic ridge. This is called mid-Atlantic ridge. Okay, again if we go back to this map, Eurasian plate. Okay, yes. If you see, if you look at this portion, ठीक है, तो साउथ अमेरिकन प्लेट और अफ्रीकन प्लेट के बीच में डाइवर्जन है, ठीक है. यू कैन सी यहां पे क्या था, इट वाज कन्वर्जेंट बाउंड्री, इट वाज कन्वर्जेंट बाउंड्री. कन्वर्जेंट बाउंड्री led to the formation of trenches and volcanoes and island arcs, ठीक है, very important. Now if you look at this convergent or divergent boundaries, this was convergent boundary, है ना, जहां पे दो प्लेट्स आपस में आके कन्वर्ज हो रहे हैं. लेकिन if you see, this South American plate is moving outwards and African plate was also moving outwards, ठीक है. Similarly, this Caribbean plate is moving this side and African plate is moving this side, and Eurasian plate is moving away from the Caribbean plate, ठीक है. Oh sorry, North American plate, this is North American plate, ठीक है. Caribbean plate तो ये है, जैसे Philippine plate was junked in between the Eurasian plate, the Indo-Australian plate and this Pacific plate. Similarly, Caribbean plate is also junked between the North American plate, South American plate, Cocos plate, है ना, और ये Pacific plate तो नहीं, लेकिन हाँ Cocos plate के बीच में एक Caribbean plate has been junked. लेकिन if you see कि all these are moving away from each other, ठीक है. This is Iceland, this is small country Iceland, ठीक है. तो these plates, whereas these plates are moving towards each other, convergent, these plates are moving away from each other, divergent, ठीक है. तो like convergent plates create trenches and volcanoes and islandic arcs. Similarly, divergent plates create oceanic ridges, ठीक है. Divergent plates create oceanic ridges. How? See, this is Southern America, this is American plate, South American plate, basically African plate. This is actual map of the oceanic basin, ठीक है. This has been hydrographically created by all these ships. This is the true map of, like you can understand, you can say that this is the physical map of the ocean beneath us, ठीक है. तो वहां पे this is the kind of structure that has formed. So this structure, this passes directly through the Iceland. You can see this is Iceland and passes directly through that. तो यहाँ पे you can see कि a new floor, like the floor of the sea is spreading away, है ना, it is spreading away because both the plates are moving away. This is a divergent, है ना, और इसकी वजह से sea floor spread हो रहा है. And one interesting thing, you can see that this is called mid-Atlantic ridge because it is present in the mid of North Atlantic Ocean and Southern Atlantic Ocean, and that is why it is called mid-Atlantic ridge. That means sorry, that means divergent boundaries create ridges, ठीक है. And very important, this is a place in Iceland. You can clearly see that one part of land and the other part of land, they have dissected, ठीक है, they have dissected, and this is one fault या ridge, you can see, ठीक है. Why? Because this mid-Atlantic ridge passes straight through this Iceland, this country Iceland, ठीक है. And one such place you can see this is a very interesting geographical phenomena, ठीक है. And another important example is the Great Fault that extends from Lebanon in the Asia to Mozambique in the South Africa, ठीक है. Very important example is Red Sea. Red Sea is a sea created by a fault line, ठीक है, similar kind of fault line, ठीक है. So within the ocean it is called ridge, it is called fault line when it extends to the land, ठीक है. You can see here that these plates, this is Red Sea, okay, and this plate is diverging, Arabian plate is moving away from African plate, and this led to the formation of this ridge or fault line, and this Arabian Sea filled this water, okay, and a Red Sea was formed. Okay, Red Sea is between Africa and Arabia. African Peninsula and Arabian Peninsula के बीच में Red Sea है. Red Sea was formed due to the divergent boundary. Okay, divergent boundary between Arabian plate and African plate. African plate and Arabian plate are moving away from each other, leading to the formation of Red Sea. Okay. So I hope you understood this very important point. Okay. If you have any doubts regarding this, you can ask me in the comment section. Okay.